Hey, this is Pradeep with Sensitura, and today I'm sharing my impression of Bois d'Argent Esprit de Parfum from Dior. I did not purchase it, not cheap whatsoever. In fact, we cannot purchase it at the boutique as of this video. You can only test it at their Paris boutiques. It is sort of hidden away, in fact. It can only be pre-ordered online directly, but will become available at the boutique only at the beginning of August, I was told. Along with Rose Star, another mainline Privée, which is exclusive to the Middle East at the moment. But I did get to test it and wear it for some time. So I'm here to share my thoughts on how it smells, what do I think about it, how does it compare to the original and all that good stuff. This Esprit de Parfum version is a June 2025 release, created under their artistic director of perfumes, Francis Coupejean. Now, as usual, for some background information, this is technically a flanker within their collection. The original Bois d'Argent is one of the 3 fragrances launched by Francis Coupejean in 2022. Oh, excuse me. It was created by their previous in-house perfumer, François Demarchi, under the collection called Maison Christian Dior. Oh wait, that's not true either. But seriously, this was part of the original debut trilogy from 2004, along with Eau Noire and Cologne Blanche. They were all created as eau de colognes. The original Bois d'Argent was created by Annick Menardot under the direction of Eddie Sleman. It's just that Dior seems to have a tough time giving proper credits to perfumers. Now, with regards to where I stand with the original, I love it. It was the first Dior Privée fragrance I purchased more than a decade ago, a little 40 ml. I have since purchased a 125 ml bottle. Of course, now they come only in 100 ml bottle. I think Annick Menardot created a true disruptive signature with this one, in that she used what are usually perceived as heavier, rustic notes and brought this sort of weightlessness and elegance to it, just elevated them with a wonderful iris note. As the name would imply, it is silvery, papery, resinous, yet transparent, just a beautifully abstract, complex, timeless creation. There's the reason why it has such a religious following here in France and even outside. It has even gotten into pop culture, songs and whatnot. I think in this case it deserves it. Easily my favorite Dior, or just in general an all-time favorite. Evidently, it was also number 1 on my ranking of Dior Privée. The unfortunate thing is, essentially most have conceded that it was significantly downgraded when Francis Coupejean re-released it in 2022. Of course, that's when he took over as creative director. The signature is still there, but they seem to have pivoted toward the vanilla and also made what was already a soft fragrance into a thinner skin scent. But anyway, that brings us to the new version. In 2024, Dior launched an exclusive collection within the existing Privée line and called them Esprit de Parfum. They were supposed to be more concentrated versions of existing fragrances, all made by Coupejean, of course. They released 5 fragrances last year. A couple of them I thought were alright. But I was surprised they did not do Bois d'Argent, which is quite popular. The essay told me that either they are saving it for later or they could not get it right just yet. Well, now we finally have it. Maybe they already had this in the pipeline last year. Who knows? These big companies always plan things 2 to 3 years in advance. So what does Dior say about this one? Quote, "For its Esprit de Parfum, the emblematic trail of Bois d'Argent is adorned with a new contrasting shine, the luminous vanilla elegance of Tuscan Iris pallida, of exceptional quality for its concentration of balmy notes. It is darkened by the sensual facets of ambroxan with powerful amber gris accents, and is dressed in the creaminess of brilliant frankincense and honey. Bois d'Argent is now cloaked with mystery in an exalted, radical wake supported by a higher concentration." Unquote. Finally, coming to the smell itself. When I first sprayed it, what I got was an overdose of incense. It was this dark, resinous, almost black, tarry, crystalline frankincense, somewhat aromatic, green, piney, and balsamic too. Ambre as well, with a light, leathery, animalic tinge, which could be from the incense or the ambergris accord. For just a few seconds, I was reminded of Nuit from Louis Vuitton. Although not as dense, the brisk woodiness of the original Bois d'Argent with the juniper and cypress is completely gone. There is this powderiness, but I'm not getting much of the iris per se. Not much of the woody facets either. But still the opening was nicely done. You can sort of get the feel of the original in the background, but it almost came across like an incense fragrance from the opening. Maybe even a touch of aldehydes in there. Now as it dries down, the incense becomes more approachable. Once again, I was thinking of another reference, which I could not quite put my finger on. But then there it was, right in front of me, their own New Look 2024, which was an aldehydic incense fragrance. It started reminding me of some of that. Of course, not as fresh, clean or soapy, just the incense component. There is a little touch of honeyed sweetness. I also get some vanilla. Overall, the fragrance is not particularly sweet, so that is an upside, I reckon. Another note, which is a key player in the original, and notably absent here, is the myrrh along with the patchouli. That, with the honey and iris, really brought in a lot of contrast. Warm to cool, resinous yet powdery, almost this abstract, elegant, papery, currency notes, books type of smell. Sometimes even this popcorn sort of scent profile. By that I mean the original is a very complex, dynamic fragrance, whereas this seems to be stripped down to its key elements. I guess they decided to keep it simple. Still, it was decent for a while, almost like this incense-heavy, nocturnal take on the original. But then after an hour or so is when it took a nosedive for me. All those sort of key notes which made for the main body of the fragrance, not to mention the actual wearing experience, turned very soft and minimal, and this kind of metallic, static, musky, ambroxan sort of smell started to take over. The dry, airy muskiness was reminiscent of the far dry down of some MFK fragrances, such as Gentle Fluidity Silver and Masculin Pluriel, without the good parts. This is a trend we have been seeing for some time now. It's not clear whether the perfume creation team does tests with people, spraying them on skin over hours, days, to really streamline the transition of the fragrance. Or do they just smell the opening on blotters and decide it's done? Because on the card, there is still some prominent incense, but on the skin, what is left is just this metallic, musky, nondescript woodiness with only some remnants of the actual scent profile. Just in general, it does not seem to have the tenacity you would expect from a supposedly highly concentrated, more expensive version of the fragrance. That too with the way it opened. This is again a trend we have been seeing with the creations of this perfumer, where everything is so airy and soft. It can still be good if done well, just not in this case. The pricing is also through the roof. It is €395 for 80 ml at retail. For reference, that is almost the same for 200 ml of the Eau de Parfum. Overall, I am glad I got to test it, but it is not something I would buy, especially for the price. I am content with the original. If anything, I would buy another bottle of the Eau de Parfum if I can get an older version for a good deal. Of course, the expectations are going to be high when doing a rendition of such an iconic fragrance. But still, the Esprit version, even in isolation, does not fully work for me as its own fragrance. I even mentioned in my review of the original that if Dior were to call a fragrance as heritage, it would be Bois d'Argent. It is the quintessential, now cliched, old money aesthetic fragrance. It feels like it has history. It's very resonating, works great as a smell and as a wearing experience. So yes, though I am curious to see what else they will do with this collection, maybe bringing in some original creations and so forth. With respect to Bois d'Argent, I think I am satisfied with the original. So there you have it, my impression of Bois d'Argent Esprit de Parfum from Dior. And as always, thanks for watching, take care and ciao.